I haven't produced content in over a year. I'm stuck right now in terms of just that fear of what are people going to say.
What part of you believes that you should just disappear and not be consistent?
It brings up that feeling of I'm a disappointment.
When you let people down in your disappointment, like what's going to happen?
I'm better. It's better that I'm not here. That feels that's kind of scary. Yeah, it's better if I don't post because it's better if I'm not here. I'm not going to disappoint anyone. I'm not going to hurt anyone.
All right, Chris. Thanks for doing this, dude. How you feeling?
I'm good. I'm really excited, Ben.
Yeah, shout out to Chris for being an example of, he's gone through the course and now um you said it was helpful, but there also is still maybe some lingering things or other things that you want to go deeper in. So
Mhm.
like I guess my first question for you, Chris, is like going through it, the things that you've uncovered and learned, now what is that what remains unresolved that you want to dive into?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know that I've overcome the idea of I'm a fraud to I'm an expert, and I think now it's
Mm.
just taking to the next step of creating content and putting content out there. My block right now is I haven't produced content in over a year, and I think what my biggest fear, Ben, is people are going to be like, "Way A, where have you gone? Where have you been?" And then
Uh-huh.
B, like all of a sudden you're back, like WTF? Am I allowed to say WTF? Am I
You can
allowed
say
to
whatever
say?
you want, yeah.
Okay, yeah, like what that? And it's just
Yeah.
yeah, like what the fuck, Chris? And
Yeah.
so I yeah, I've got this fear of like posting my first content. I've got an idea.
Cool.
And I'm stuck right now in terms of just that fear of what are people going to say?
Beautiful. Thanks, dude. Thanks for expressing that. Um, and you're definitely not alone in that. It's like why I love this stuff so much is like you've been doing it a while, you've done it before, you know what to do, but obviously there's a reason you're not doing it. And it's not like I could give you, the biggest, like, here's how to break it down, here's a script, but it's like that's not the problem, you know?
No, I know. I mean, I can even ask ChatGPT to write me something,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
it's not, even if I've got something perfect to write, it's just the posting it and hitting like send or like hitting publish. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's the part that's keeping me stuck right now.
Yes, dude. Cool. All right. So you said something important, right? Like the WTF.
Hmm.
Obviously, right? That's a projection of like that's the judgment you have on yourself. So what is the judgment you have like since you've been gone for a year? Like what
What
is
is it?
like what is it on yourself that you're feeling?
What is it in myself that I'm feeling? Well, I feel shame
Yeah.
and guilt for being away for so long. Um, I feel, yeah, I feel like people in the what they're really saying is, oh, here's Chris again, trying it again. Um, and oh, he's just gonna post for a few months and then he's gonna be gone. Like just so don't even bother following.
Mm,
That's the judgments that I project in terms of what's keeping me stuck.
dang, dude. I love how we can just boom, 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 go straight to it.
Yeah, I hope that was okay, right? I was just
Yeah,
like,
no, this is why we're here, right? Just to get straight to it.
yeah,
Okay, cool. So obviously, right, like you said, you feel shame, because it's like, okay, you're just gonna try and then you're gonna disappear again. Because like, so what is that really meaning, right? I know you mentioned like I'm a fraud before we started recording. It's, I'm unworthy. I feel like there's something else beneath that of like, it's like what, like you're not meant for this, you're not supposed to do this, like no one is gonna care or listen. Like, what does it really mean, like when that happens?
I can't trust Chris.
Mm,
Like, yeah, he's got enough to say, but he's not going to be consistent, or like he's just going to disappear again. So, um, he's got good ideas, but can we really trust him?
mm. That's a
I
powerful
think that's
realization.
say again.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's a powerful realization. I just got chills. So it's like there's a reason why they can't trust you, right? Like you said, that lack of consistency, and you're just gonna disappear. So it's like, what part of you believes that you should just disappear and not be consistent?
I hate this, Ben.
But love it at the same time.
love it at the same time. I mean, if we go back in the past, I mean, there was something in the past where I did have like I stated like a promise to like some of my friends and students in like grade school, and
Mhm.
it comes up to it brings up that feeling of I don't want, I'm a disappointment,
Yeah, there
you
you go.
know.
Right. So it's like, yeah, it's that they can't trust you, but even deeper, it's the feeling of being a disappointment.
Yeah,
How does that feel, even just speaking that out loud?
heavy.
Yeah.
um yeah, it feels really heavy. uh Shitty.
Yeah, shitty.
Feels shitty.
Right. So I know we've been like rapid fire going through this, which I appreciate, but at the same time, it's really important just to take, press pause and feel it for a moment. Because this is
Hmm.
the thing that you've really been avoiding, right? So why you're not posting is because you're trying to avoid feeling like a disappointment.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably something else down there too of like what is that really proving? Like when you flash back to the grade school or right now, right? Like disappear and disappointment, like what is that really proving if you're a disappointment?
um yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to like the I'm a fake, I'm a fraud. um if I go back to that, it's like let me just think through it.
Yeah, just feel it, dude. Like what is that disappointment feeling? Just like what is the overarching like about your character, about your heart, about your just like your existence?
Yeah, I'm a bad person. I can't be trusted. um I'm not, I guess it's the I'm not a good enough person. I'm not good. If I'm letting people down, ultimately it means that I'm not a good person to trust. Just don't trust Chris.
Mm,
Does that
right.
make sense? I don't know if
Yeah.
that makes sense, but that's
Yeah.
kind of what's coming
Perfectly.
up.
Yeah, I mean that perfectly makes sense. It makes sense in a lot of ways. Doesn't mean it's exactly fun.
Yeah.
But it makes sense in the like why you're not hitting post, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's like you risk being a disappointment and you risk um essentially that pain of like letting people down again.
Hmm.
Like what would happen to you like maybe what did you already feel like back in that grade school moment like when you let people down in your disappointment like what's going to happen?
They're gonna tell everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're gonna be like, they're gonna unfollow. They're gonna tell everyone else. I'm gonna have a bad reputation. Um, and yeah, I post something, they're gonna ignore it, not like it, or tell their friends like, hey, this guy, you think he's all this, but behind the scenes he's like that.
Yeah.
And that would be horrible.
And that triggers that imposter syndrome, right?
That
And
totally
it's
triggers
like
imposter syndrome.
because it's like you're faking, right? You're inauthentic of like who you are portrayed to be and then who you really are.
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that. So it's like, so ultimately, right, if everyone ignores you, if people leave you and like what is that ultimate feeling? Is it like loneliness or what else is there?
It gives me a loneliness, but it's also, there's that sense of safety that I'm not going to hurt anyone.
Hmm. I appreciate you bringing this up, dude. I love this so much because people don't realize like the benefit to staying small, right? They just wonder like, why can't I do this thing? Because it's like, well, you're getting a benefit and a reward for staying small, right? In your subconscious mind, it literally feels like you're doing a service to people, right? Because you're not hurting them. So it feels like, right? That's the benefit of it. It's like, oh, I'm saving people's from disappointment. Like
Yeah.
literally my presence and my words I'm better. Like what's coming up to me a lot for you is like the disappear and ignore is basically and like why you disappeared for a year, right? Is just like I'm better to not be here essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm better. It's better that I'm not here.
See,
Um,
how does
because
that sentence feel?
oh, that feels. Uh, that's kind of scary. I've had that experience before, or that thought before. I've worked with my therapist on that thought before, in a
Yeah.
different way, Ben. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, in this small sense, I think that yeah, it's better if I don't post because it's better if I'm not here. I'm not going to disappoint anyone. I'm not going to hurt anyone. Um, yeah,
Exactly. So I appreciate you sharing that because I know that obviously it goes pretty deep, like you said, in a different context with a therapist. But like people don't realize like it directly ties to that. So like we all have this belief of like they're better off without me.
yes,
Right? Literally, like my like when you talk about being wrong or bad or the shame of that is essentially like my existence, my being here is a burden, right? Or I don't belong here. Like literally my presence. And when you think about how you show up on social media, right? It's a social media presence. So you have to think how that ties in, right? So it's literally I'm better not be here, right? Not that they just can't trust me, but I'm a disappointment and going even further and deeper is that like they're better off without me and I don't belong here essentially.
yeah,
So you can feel, right, like how shitty and depressing that is.
yeah, and how it's like holding me back from like there's a part of me that knows that I'm not that,
Yeah.
right? There's a part of me that knows that I can make an impact.
Yeah.
Um, but there is that part of me too that feels like the people are better off without me. Like it's weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like yeah, it's weird.
It is weird, dude. And I appreciate you speaking that out because it is weird. Like this stuff is like, why would I even think this or feel this, right? Can I just be easy? Can I just hit like post? It's like it doesn't have to be this deep or this
Right.
like, you know.
Can't I be just like Ben and just like, like on his camera and talking about his family and his kids, and yeah.
Yeah, but like even for me, right? Like mine's different, but it's like I still have that stuff and it's like I'm, trying to be as transparent as possible of like the stuff that I've worked through and the stuff that I'm still working through. Um, and it's like, but to think about like the impact, because I know you can believe that you make an impact, but that like conflicts with the other thing, right? So this is why you and other people will like, this is why you post consistently. It's like you're all in on something and then you disappear completely, right? Because one of those beliefs, right, is influencing that behavior. So it's like, I'm gonna post, and then it's like, oh no, I'm not, like, I don't deserve to be here. And so that's like that ping pong, all or nothing,
Hot and
swinging
cold.
hot and cold, right? Like same thing with finances, right? Where it's like feast and famine, the same thing.
Yep.
And we all have that, right? We all have fear and desires that are two sides of the same coin. So it's like my question for you, Chris, is like, what do you need to believe or to know, like to show up in a grounded, loving, safe energy? Like, what are you really trying to feel? Like, even when you go back to that grade school moment, like when you felt that abandonment, really, right? Of like, you felt like that trust leaving.
Mhm.
What did you really need to feel in that moment and probably today?
I think today it's just, one, it's an understanding that this is part of that process of that this is everyone feels this way. Like everyone,
Yeah.
putting yourself out there is a risk that you will disappoint, but putting yourself out there is also a risk that you will help. You know, I think hurting and helping are two sides of the same coin, right? As much as I risk at of hurting someone, um, I also will be able to help someone. And I don't mean any, the thing is, I don't mean any harm, right? Do no harm, right?
Yeah.
And I don't mean any harm at all. But I think that's what I'm coming to realize is that, again, I don't know what that means, but if that makes
Cool.
sense, but that's where I'm at right now.
Well, I love that because you just said, right? Because it's like your goal is to not harm, but imagine all the people that you're not reaching right now. Are you helping or hurting them?
I'm definitely hurting by not helping them.
Yeah, right. So it's like, yeah, obviously that could be extreme, right? Of thinking like, oh, I'm so important that like my existence is like hurting someone or my absence. But like kinda, right? In a way of like you literally you have something inside of you that can make an impact. Um, that it's like what is absent, not just you, right? But like the benefit, the help, the tool, the support, the resource, the story, that
Mhm.
like connection is missing. So it's like you're already doing the thing that you are afraid of doing. So that's why you get stuck in this cycle, right? Because you're literally proving the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't want to let people down, so I'm not going to post, but then you don't post, and then you're invisible and absent, so they can't see, so you can't make an impact. So you let everyone down, you disappoint yourself, and you prove that you don't belong here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly what I'm doing.
Which
Um,
makes you feel safe and familiar
and familiar.
and miserable all at the same time.
Yeah, and goes into the famine months.
Yep. So knowing that, right, of like, what would just dissolve, like when you think about that hot cold, like, like just kind of dissolve that. And like when you come into a center, going back to the question of like, what do you need to feel? Like, what do you need to feel like for you to show up safely and
That
share your,
some
go ahead.
that someone wants to hear from me.
Beautiful. I love that. And how do you feel when someone wants to hear from you?
I feel excited. It's like you know well, I'm single, but being single and like someone wants to date me, like
Yeah,
me, what? Like, and so someone wants to hear from me. I think it makes me feel good. It makes me feel positive, and already makes me feel accepted that whatever I'm going to say is going to be good enough.
exactly. Right. And so it's like, that's really what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Right. Like when you think about, whoa, like people want to hear from me, right? That kind of comes like your voice went up, right? It's like the same thing as like dating, like, whoa, me? Yeah, you. And this is for you, Chris, and this is for everyone, right? Of like you, right? Like people do want to hear from you. Um, and it's like, again, when you feel that, right, is you feel loved, you feel accepted,
Hmm.
and you feel like you just said, like good enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the absence of that leads to a feeling of what?
The absence of people,
Wanting to hear from you or, feeling that feeling of love and acceptance and good enough and caring about you. What do you feel?
the absence of that is uncertainty. And if I don't remind myself that people want to hear from me, then it makes me think, why am I posting? And no
Yeah,
one's going to want to listen anyways. And yeah, going back to that cycle of like removing myself and avoiding people hurting others, and them not getting the help that they need.
exactly, right. And so you can see like what you really want to know and feel is that I am good enough, right? Because I'm guessing back to that grade school moment, like you didn't feel good enough. Because like you made a mistake, which is okay, but you felt like a disappointment in that moment.
I did. Yeah.
Right? Which, when you think of the word disappointment or disappear, right? It's like the lack or the missing or the lower vibration of something.
Hmm.
It's like literally like without, you
Yeah.
know? So like you have to think, that's interesting. I don't know if I ever made that connection completely, right? Like the prefix or however you say it, right? The dis, I think means without, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. Yes. In this case. Yeah.
Right? So it's like literally you are taking that story away of like, I'm better, they're better without me.
Hmm.
Um, but we know obviously that's not true. And so it's not just knowing it, it's feeling it, because that's the difference between you having it in your drafts and hitting post.
Yeah.
So how do you, I mean, I already feel it. I feel like you've already had a transformation, but just so you can like lock it in and embody it of like you can go not just like after this call, but like day in and day out, you can go hit publish consistently. Like, what do you want to feel and remind yourself when you are in that space?
I think that people want to hear from me. People are excited to hear from me. People love hearing from me.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I think I want to feel that. I want to definitely feel that.
And it's like what you're trying to say is like, I'm loved, basically.
Yeah, that I'm loved, I'm safe, I'm enough.
Yep.
That would be, I think that would be part of it.
And so it's like the tricky thing is, right, is like, well, if you post something and then they don't like it or get the engagement you want, then you can get triggered and like, oh, it wasn't enough and I'm not loved, right?
Right.
So that's why it's even if that's why our triggers are our teachers, because if that happens, right, then it means you're outsourcing your value, your worth, your love. So even that is a reminder to come back into wholeness. So it's like it's not just like people love me, like I know that for a fact, but it's like I am loved and like I love myself. That's what I feel like you've got to come to in order to be that rock solid, consistent presence for people. And most importantly, yourself.
Yeah. Hmm. Interesting. I love, so I'm loved, I'm safe, I'm enough, but I also love myself too.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. I'll play with
Like
that.
I love it. Cause like what would change really though? Like if you knew with 100% certainty, like if you knew that like I am loved, like how would you show up differently?
Um, I wouldn't second guess the post that I want to post.
Boom.
Yeah.
And you'd
Yeah.
be consistent, I'm guessing. And you would
And
show
I would be more consistent than I am now. Which would be a goal would be like 3 times a week versus every day.
cool.
That would be a goal. And I would actually be more even more open to the share current things that I'm going through, right? The
Hmm.
pivot that I'm going through. Sharing about like, how my students yesterday did something nice for me on my last day of class. That would be nice, right? So I would post that knowing that um, I'm loved
Mm.
and that I also love myself.
That's beautiful, dude. Thank you for sharing. I love where this went.
Yeah, me too.
Right? We just boom, 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 but there's a lot of feeling in there too, which is important.
Yeah.
But what is your overall takeaway?
Aside from you're a magician, I mean, I think one is that, not helping, my absence is not hurting them, but also not helping them is hurting them.
Yep.
That people want to hear from me, and that I'm loved and safe. I'm enough, and I have to work on giving love to myself.
Yes, dude. I love that, right? 'Cause awesome. And like one last thing I'll leave is like on the point of you're not right, your absence is actually hurting, not helping. But also the phrase I just said, right, is like triggers are our teachers. So it's like,
Triggers are our teachers. Yeah.
so if you trigger people, are you hurting them or helping them?
Oh, if I trigger people, well, I'm kind of helping them too because I'm teaching them something.
Exactly. So even when you're quote unquote hurting someone, right? Like, dude, I know your heart. You're not gonna come out here and like 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 I know, right? You're not intentionally hurting someone. So it's like, but at the same time, when you come up and speak this potent truth from your heart, you're gonna trigger people. So in that way, right, like you are helping them, even if they feel uncomfortable. In the same way that I did that with you today, right? I didn't make you uncomfortable. I asked you questions that helped you realize the truth. That's uncomfortable, but you needed to hear it in order to heal and break through and evolve.
Yeah.
So, as Maui, right, in Moana said, what can I say except you're welcome?
Thank you so much, Ben. This was awesome. I appreciate it.
And that's what you say. That's what you feel. You're welcome, baby.
You're welcome. Yeah. Yeah. I'll definitely, I don't have kids, so I haven't seen Moana or Moana 2 yet. So I'll have to like look that up.
Thanks, dude. Well, Chris, we appreciate you, man. Thanks for showing up, just vulnerable, and being willing to go through this process. Thank you, sir.